Good morning, this is Lainey from Camp Joy Farms. I wanted to do this video this morning more for myself, to kind of purge myself of some thoughts that have been just going through my head a lot lately. I have been reading several books. I love books on gardening. I order them, I read them, I keep them as reference books. But here lately, I've gotten a chain of books that have really more disturbed me than made me feel excited about gardening. There's so many good points in these books, and I want to point that out. I'm not panning any of the books, and I'm not even going to mention the names right now. I think I will do reviews on the books as I go, because I promised that in my very first video, and I do want to go more extensive into some of these books because there are good points. There's so many good points, but there's a general atmosphere in a lot of the gardening books that I've been reading. Maybe there are a lot of the gardening books out there that you've been reading, I don't know. And that general atmosphere is pro small farmers producing a lot of food for people and anti big ag. And that bothers me because I guess because I'm not young and 20 and fighting the world or anything. I'm older with a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more experience in life. But I don't believe we have to decide in this time of our lives an either or. You either have to be a small organic gardener, farmer, selling straight to customers. That's the ideal. Or you have to be big ag that they claim is ruining the world. It's not an either or. We can have both and, because I don't believe, number one, that the capability exists really for us just small mom and pop farmers to feed the world. People will argue with that. I can look right now, I could Google right now and see just thousands of articles on all the different aquaponics and hydroponics and Disneyland and everything is just feeding their whole parks every day with things they grow in greenhouses. I understand that. I do. I understand that there's a lot of technologies now. I understand that there's a lot of vertical growing and all that just, utilizes the real estate above our heads and everything, and we can grow food up and not need all the acreage. I do understand that. But I also understand that it's a lot more than just you growing a bunch of tomatoes and sharing them with your neighbors. It's more than me saying, well, I want to start a market farm and I want to sell to the people around me. It's bigger than that. There's so many more markets for the items that are grown. There's so many more countries that a lot of our production gets shipped to. And I don't know that market farmers, organic farmers, can fill all those gaps. And I think it needs to be discussed a lot more than it is. I think it's become a little tenuous point to where people feel like they have to take sides. And I'm not taking sides. If I am going to take a side, I'm going to take a side on free enterprise. If someone wants to have a big gigantic farm and use tractors and all that stuff, knock themselves out. I mean, go ahead. If you want to have a small farm where you use a broad fork and a mule maybe to do different things, and you use the manure from that mule to fertilize your gardens because it's all a big circle of life that goes back into your soil, knock yourself out too. I agree with that too. It really is. And if you have that ability to do that without ever cranking an engine or without ever doing anything, knock yourself out. I'm saying all this because I'm on my third book that I've been reading lately about gardening, and all three are just so anti-big ag. They're anti any type of mechanism that you have to crank and put oil in or use gasoline or anything like that. And I think that's silly. I really think it's silly. And as I'm reading these books, I'm seeing the hypocrisy of what they're saying, because it's not always what they're doing. But as long as they're doing it at their convenience for their reasons, then it's okay. Well, I have my reasons too. I did the video the other day about finding your lane, I'm trying to decide, where's my lane going to be in gardening and all. I can get on YouTube. I can look at so many different accounts right now, and they're all good. But hopefully they found their lanes to get in, and they found what they want to do. Do they want to sell to restaurants? Do they want to grow microgreens? Do they want to do farmers markets every Saturday? Whatever it is, find your lane. And I'm trying to find mine. But I also don't think that small gardeners, small farmers should become so anti-mechanisms, anti-engines, anti-tools, that other people use. Let's just get all in this together, because there's a lot of people in this world that are going to need more food than they realize in the coming days, I believe. Can talk about supply chains and all that stuff. Everybody's already hearing all that, and make up your own minds about it and everything. I'm seeing the prices go up at my grocery store. I shop all the time, and I know what the prices were, and I know what they are, and I'm not fooled by any statistics I see on the news. 6%, blah blah blah. It's more than that, and people know it. So as people weed out of eating a lot of things they might be used to, seafood and meat and all, which we love down here in the South, and they have to get more towards eating vegetables and things that are a little bit more cost effective, I think all of us will rise. Big ag, small. I'm the smallest there can be. I am one woman trying to tend to 3 gardens this coming spring and hopefully sell some produce. I'm as small as they get. And I can tell you that I cannot do it, will not be able to do it by using a broad fork and a mule that I don't own. Okay? That's not going to happen. And so the people that are out there that are anti-tractor or whatever, that's your business. Just do you, and I'll do me. I just say this ahead of time because I know that as I sell produce and things like that, I might get asked, think questions about how it was grown and all that stuff. I'm going to be completely honest and just tell people, I am going to use soil inputs like triple 13 and my lime and things like that to control my pH and all that kind of stuff. Some people will not even like that. That's okay. I'm fine with that. What I do draw the line at, and that's just me personally, is I don't like to use things like 7 Dust. I don't like to use a lot of the things fungicide things that you buy at the store that you would just spray. See a worm, start spraying fungicide. That's not me. I want to look up the worm. I want to study it, think about it, see if that worm is really hurting my crops. See, learn everything, because you can mess up just by spraying and killing. I'll give an example. This past fall, I was growing some pole beans, some coon beans they were called, and some Golden Gate Romano wax beans. And they were all doing great. As a matter of fact, the coon beans were beautiful. They're an Appalachian heirloom bean that I was just kind of test growing. They were gorgeous, and I would grow them again in 2 seconds. But I was growing them, and everything was going fine. Then I started noticing some of my leaves, were kind of chewed on the outside edge. I started noticing some little brown marks across some of the beans, like maybe a worm had crawled up the bean to get to the top of the plant. And sure enough, I found folded in the lips of the leaves, little folds, and there would be a worm in that fold. And a lot of the worms were starting to spin like a little cocoon. Well, I looked it up. I got on the internet and looked it up, and it's, from what I could gather, this is by my best research, I could gather it was an inchworm. So it said on there, that they can do some damage to your plants. They start off in a cocoon type phase. They end up back in that phase before they die off, and before their larva hatches later. So I just started killing them. I would just find the little rolled up worm that's rolled in the edge of the leaf, and I would squish it. And I squish. I went all along about 40 foot of my pole beans doing that to every worm I found. And I was so proud of myself because it took a little while, but I felt like I'm eradicating this worm, and then what I was going to do is just keep looking. And if I kept seeing worms, I was going to keep doing that until hopefully, all my beans could be harvested and, everything would be okay. I didn't want to spray it with anything. Well, the minute I killed all the worms, and I can't really explain this, a microbiologist or someone could, I guess, but the minute I did that, all of my plants started looking horrible. All of my beans started shriveling up. It was the weirdest thing. It was like when I killed the worms, my plants reacted horribly. So, on the one hand, I didn't spray anything. I didn't use anything. But on the other hand, maybe I should have, because it could have handled the situation a little bit better than what happened when I did. I didn't harvest any more beans off of the 40-foot row of whole beans. I didn't harvest any more beans, really. They started looking terrible. My leaves started just drying up, and it was done. And I don't know everything. I don't know everything. Sometimes doing things like that might be worse than just spraying a little bit and testing, and then spraying a little bit more and testing, So my point is, there's all kinds of ways to get things done. Sometimes the full-on organic way is not the best way either. Sometimes you're going to lose your whole crop to insects and pests. It's just going to happen. Doesn't matter, I'm not going to sit out there and put netting over pole beans. I'm just not. They need to be hardy enough to survive a little worm or survive me. I'm not going to go out there and net my whole garden 7 foot in the air. I'm not going to do it. But I just have to I'm wanting today to just kind of purge my thoughts on a lot of this stuff, because it doesn't have to be yay organic small farming, boo big ag. It doesn't have to be. Another reason that I'm feeling this way is because my husband and I just took a trip. We just went on a little 2-night, 3-day trip to Natchez, Mississippi. But we took a drive the second day we were there. And we went into the part of northeast Louisiana that I just really rarely go into. And we drove all through farming country in northeast Louisiana. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. We even saw a bear, believe it or not. But I loved it. I'm not going to lie. I just loved it. We just saw mile after mile after mile, row after row after row of cropland already plowed. I didn't see a lot growing right now, and I think I know why, because a few weeks ago we went to Bunkie, Louisiana, which is in central Louisiana, and they were in full-on sugarcane harvest. So everything that was on both sides of the road was sugarcane, and it was all being harvested, loaded on trucks, and taken out. That's probably why I didn't see things planted here in eastern part of North Louisiana, is because I think the sugarcane was just pulled out of the fields, and the fields were bare, and they're resting until the next crop comes along. I'm sure they grow cotton up there. I'm sure they grow all kinds of things, soybeans, just whatever, corn. I'm sure corn. I know they grow corn, because if you drive between Natchez, Mississippi and Ruston, Louisiana, it's a corn belt, and they have all kind of corn. But we need to think about it. How can you drive miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and see fields completely devoted to crops, whether it's soybeans, corn, sugarcane, whatever it is, and look at that and think that a small farmer like me can take the place of that? I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. And I don't agree that we have to even fight about it. There's a place for big ag, and there's a place for small farmers. I think, and we all can work together and feed the world. I also just noticed and was in awe of the industry. As we were going along Highway 65, just mile after mile after mile, every so often, here's grain bins, trucks all parked at it. Here's trucks on the road, going from one place to the other. Here's CoOps, feed stores. Oh, there was tons of agricultural supply distributorships, just selling every type of machinery you can imagine, every type of bin you can imagine. And you think about it, and those places employ so many people. And the whole industry that surrounds ag employs so many people. And those jobs are good jobs. They're well-paying jobs. a lot of people have their freedom and their independence in the ag industry. And I don't want to compete with that. I want that. I want Louisiana to be great in ag. I want Louisiana to have signs telling me to look out for the sugarcane trucks, because it's time for sugarcane harvest. And these trucks have the way of the road. And you just look out for them, because if a wreck happens, the sugarcane farmers are going to get the benefit of the doubt, because it's their time of the year to harvest. And the people that live around there just know that. So I'm okay with that. Let them have the roads for a while. They pay taxes, they make good money, and it's just the way it is. It's life in agricultural country. I love it. I love it. I don't want to have just off the road little farms here, there, and yonder that you have to be attached to get some food. I think there should be farms everywhere. I want to grow things and I want to sell them to the people in this area. I do. I want to make some money and I want to sell vegetables to people in this area. But you know what would make me really happy is if everybody that lives around me had a garden. I think times are going to be that way here shortly, and really kind of already here, where everybody needs to be growing their own food. If it takes my market away, it takes my market away. That's fine. Everybody needs to grow. As a matter of fact, one of my little plans with my gardening is to give away little packets of seeds. Just, little small little pill packet size little Ziplocs of seeds. I would love to give them to people, when they come. Here's some 25 little bush beans you can put in the ground, easy to put in on the side of your house. Try these, I would love that. I want people to grow their own food. I think it is so necessary. But it's also necessary for big corporate growers to grow, to employ, to have the consulting jobs, all the way down to the girl at the desk of the counter in the co-op that's just selling the feed to people. I think the jobs just need to stay there. The jobs are needed to keep our country going. And small little organic farmers growing 12 foot tall instead of 2 foot tall aren't going to feed the world, in my opinion. Not if you put it in direct contrast to what I saw just this weekend. And it's been something I've noticed for a while. When I went to Bunkie a few weeks ago, I couldn't even hardly drive because I was just looking at all the sugarcane production and the equipment and the men, black, white, it doesn't matter. It's not even anything to do with race or anything. Everybody needs a job. And everybody was participating in that sugarcane harvest around Bunkie. It was going on. And I was there on a Sunday. And it was going on. I can imagine how much more busier it was during the week. But it employs people. It's how people pay their bills. It's how they're going to buy their kids their Christmas presents this year. It's how they're going to retire, hopefully. I'm okay with that. Let's all just understand that it can be both and. It doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be you never go to the grocery store and buy anything because you only want to buy it from an organic farmer that lives near you. Support the organic farmer. That's fine. But understand that, in your life, no matter what you do, you're eating something that comes from big ag. Whether you're buying a pack of Martha White cornmeal mix, that's big ag. Somebody grew that corn that Martha White and them ground up to sell. And you know what? I'm glad, because I use Martha White Mexican cornbread to make my cornbread dressing every year for Thanksgiving. I couldn't probably make it taste as good as they do. It's fine. We can all live together. These books that I'm reading had me a little upset because they just keep on and on going at even a small farmer that chooses to use a tiller, or even a small farmer that uses black ground cover on their plants. That's just a no-no. They practically just spit, when they say tractor, it's horrible. But it's not horrible. I don't use the big plastic ground cover. It probably should, but to me that's a big expense, and I don't think I want to do that right now. I don't think I need the black ground cover on rows of green beans. I think they're hardy enough to handle not having that. I can keep that weeded. it's no problem. To me, it's an economic thing. But if you want to put black ground cover around all your plants and burn the little holes in it with a propane thing and plant just in the holes to keep weeds down, knock yourself out. Do whatever you want to do. I'll do what I want to do. Let Big Ag do what they want to do. And guess what? At that point, we'll have enough food to feed the world. I also noticed the people in the books that I'm reading, they're so into their research on organic gardening, they're so into their research that they go, if they hear about techniques from Korea to do natural farming, they get on an airplane and go to Korea and immerse in it and study it a while. Well, unless they went on their child's big wheel, I think they flew on a big jet plane to get there. So I don't really understand why I'm the big bad guy if I crank my tractor up every now and then to disc 10,000 square feet of gardens, but it's okay for them to get on an airplane and fly to Korea or Cuba or China or Japan or places in Africa where they want to study the seeds or whatever. It's okay to get on airplanes and do that. One of the books I'm reading, they've made their farm a model farm for organic farming, which is great. That's fine. And it's probably so beautiful that it would take my breath away, because it's located in France and it's probably just so beautiful it would take my breath away. But they say that people from all over the world are coming to their farm to study their techniques. Well, how are these people from all over the world getting there? On bikes? I don't think so. They're getting there in cars and planes. Nobody's coming to mine. I'm not attracting people to use airplanes to come to my little farm. That's the hypocrisy of a lot of this stuff. Is bad jet fuel, bad tractors, bad tillers. But yet, when they need to get on a plane to go somewhere to study organic farming, that's okay. I might sound a little bit bitter, and I think I am, but that's okay. They have their opinions, I have mine. They wrote a book about theirs. I'm just doing a little old YouTube video. I don't even hardly have any followers, so who's going to even see it, probably. But that's my opinion, is please don't poo-poo how other people do things. Don't judge so much. Just let people do what they want to do. I know I'm talking about things that are around the world right now, but mostly I'm concerned about America, because this is supposed to be the land of the free. Let people garden how they want to garden. If you want to ask them questions when you go to buy their produce, what'll guide how they garden is maybe if all of their customers that come up are very, very picky, well, then they might adopt those very, very picky ways about organic farming. But like around where I live, you just want like some good collard greens. You really don't just analyze to death the person selling it to you. And most of them aren't putting anything horrible on them, but they might put triple 13 in their soil, to get their plants up and going really good. That's okay. It's okay. I don't have any problem with that. Anyway, I just wanted to end this video by just saying, in this world, let's value our freedom. Let's value our freedom to grow things, to have industry, to employ. Let's don't get all over each other's backs about every little thing. And if you come over and you see that I disc my soil every now and then, and you don't, you just use a broad fork. Hey, she discs, she uses a broad fork. Who cares? Who grows better food? Just that's really the output of it is what's going to determine what people use, the output. But I really can't be broad forking 10,000 square feet of gardens, all the time. You just have to evaluate who you are, what you've got to work with, and where you want to go with this. And I know I'm getting to know myself, and I'm getting to know what I want to do. And mine is going to involve, because of my time constraints, because of my physical limitations. I can't work myself to death every day. I have to pace myself because I have other things in my life that take a lot of my energy too. So I have to pace myself. I have to evaluate all those different things, and I'll decide what I want to do and how I want to grow. And my customers will love it or they won't, but I feel like they will, because most people are nice and most people are good, and they're not going to worry to death if you used a tractor to disc your field or a broadfork. I just can't imagine anybody not buying heirloom tomatoes from me because I used a tractor disc on my field. I just can't. That's my being a little sarcastic, but that's my feelings. And I just wanted to come out here today, kind of quiet. I'm on the corner of my property. It's an overcast day, and I just wanted to say that I loved the big ag examples that I saw on our little trip. I loved it. I love seeing the fields mile after mile. I loved knowing that there's industry that's employing people. I went in I went in the Wilkinson County Co-op just south of Woodville, Mississippi. Those co-ops, I can't say enough about them. You would think I'm getting paid by co-ops, but I'm not. I love them. I went in there and walked out with clippers to trim a tree that I need to trim, blue jeans for my son, gloves, a toy, and some spikes for my trees. Some fertilizer spikes for my trees. I could have walked out of there with hardware. I could have walked out of there with Christmas gifts or house accessories, because they sold all kind of gifts and pottery and everything else. Some of these co-ops have really gotten good, and they just have everything when you walk in. They have kids' clothes, women's clothes, all kind of things like that. So if you have a co-op near you, even though it says farmers co-op, don't just think it's for farmers. Please go in there and at least see what they have. A lot of them sell wonderful cookware, cast iron pots, and just anything you would need for barbecues and things like that. So go try them and give them some of your business. I also went to Three Rivers Farm Supply in Vidalia, Louisiana while I was out. I bought some pelleted lime for my garden. Nice young men helped me. They loaded me. Anytime you can buy from any of these places over just running to Walmart for things, over running to Lowe's or Home Depot, please give them a shot. That's all I'm asking. I'm not getting paid to do commercials for them. I just know that those stores are so community oriented, and they'll be there. In the bad times, they'll be there if we support them and if we stay with them, and if we don't just run to Home Depot and buy every little thing you need for your garden. Home Depot has good things. They have nice garden departments and everything. But if you live near a co-op, try them first. The cost sometimes it's not any different. It's the same product sometimes, but sometimes they have even better things. So just try them. Anyway, moral of my story, big ag versus small farmer. Let's choose both. Let's choose both. Let's keep both in business. Let's support both. Let's have both, because it's going to take all of us to feed the world. I thank you for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to, and turn on your notifications so you'll see me. Thank you. Bye-bye.